You are now listening to the Beyond the Challenge podcast, brought to you by the Challenge Program, Inc.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Challenge podcast. On this special episode, we have a lovely special guest, and that is Lexie Steiner from the American Eagle Paper Mills out in the Tyrone, Altoona-ish area. Of course, they send paper out across the world, but that's where their main hub is located, and she is a human resource generalist. So we're going to be getting into all the things dealing with HR and interviewing and really dissecting the mind of Lexie to see what works and what doesn't work in the land of interviewing. So, hi Lexie, thank you for coming on down to the Challenge podcast. Do you have any introduction you'd like to give or any greetings or anything?
I just want to say that I am the HR generalist, like Dasha said. So that involves a lot of recruiting, so a lot of hiring efforts, as well as onboarding new employees, handling employee issues, running all the events, just a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff of the company at American Eagle Paper Mills.
Yes, so in long story short, she basically keeps the place moving and grooving. You just don't even know it. She's not out in the line. She's out here on the computer making things happen. So shout out to Lexie. We really appreciate her as a fellow business partner. And then obviously, I can't speak for them, but I'm going to. The mill obviously appreciates all your hard work and dedication too.
Thank you, Dasha. Thank you.
Yep. So we're going to head into our first segment, and that is What's Poppin'? And our first segment deals with just kind of anything that's happening, more so pop culture or anything general. But since we have our lovely guest from one of our business partners, I was able to overhear that you guys ran a workforce activity at Altoona Area High School in the Altoona, Pennsylvania area. And you guys made paper, like literal, tangible paper, not necessarily the money paper, although I wish we could do that too, but really actual paper. So can you just kind of break it down, like how, I guess for somebody who doesn't know, how do you make paper? Like how did the activity go? All that fun stuff.
Yeah, so when the activity was first mentioned to me, I was honestly a little bit nervous because my day-to-day role is more so recruiting and hiring employees to make the paper and not really hands-on making the paper. So I did recruit the efforts of some of our engineers, and it really was a mill-wide project. The maintenance team helped, our engineers helped, our customer service department. It had all hands on deck at the mill to teach me this process. I'm very thankful to work at a place that was so friendly and so willing to help. But from there, we really just we had to take this facility that is a couple street blocks wide and put it in a classroom setting.
Cram it in.
Yeah, and try to make some paper that way. So from there, we really just brought in some dried out pulp scraps that we had that we would use in our process to make paper. And we mixed them up with water and added some tie-dye fabric dye to it as well, so that the students could make their very own color of whatever they wanted.
Very cool.
From there, when we strained it out over the sink, and we actually had to we have wires that are as big as a building with our paper machines. But from there, we really just had to make a little small strainer with our maintenance team put together, strain that out, and then we had to roll it with a rolling pin and then dry it overnight as well. But everyone got to walk away with a little, almost like Post-it note size sheet of paper.
Yeah, very impressive.
In their very own color too, which I thought was cool.
Customizable, I like that. That sounds fun. And then if you can kind of estimate, like how long did that take? Like obviously in the mill it takes a hot second, but in the dumbed down version in school, like how long would you say from step one to the final step was?
I would say we had the classroom for about 4 45-minute periods.
Okay.
But the first and fourth one, we used that to set up and tear down. So really just took, honestly, 2 45-minute periods. And that was just to get almost 30 kids through. So we were going to have groups of 4. That would have gone a little bit faster. When we saw it was only going to be 30 students, we decided to do groups of 2. We thought that'd be a little bit more hands-on, and while they were mixing their pulp or straining out their paper, I could explain a little bit more of the process. It was just 2 and not large group.
Yeah, it was a little more, I guess you could say, one-on-one personal.
Yeah, it was really nice that way. I enjoyed it that way, so I think that was probably the best thing we could have done is moving it from groups of 4 down to groups of 2. And honestly, each person was probably with us, like each set of 2 was probably with us for 5-10 minutes. Nothing too crazy.
Okay,
And it was kind of nice because like we could do kind of step 1 where we would mix the pulp, and then I could send them to dye their paper whatever color they wanted. Some, wanted to mix it up, do like green and real dark green. Someone made like a baby blue. So whatever they felt like making with the dye, they were able to do that on their own.
Okay, cool. It sounds like you guys were a well-oiled machine for it being your first activity. So very impressive. And then if you're able to say, did you have any like cool reactions, or did anything like surprise you, or anything stand out from the event? If not, it sounded like it went great and smooth. That works too.
I honestly, I'm trying to think of what stood out during the event. Honestly, probably just everyone's smile.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone seemed to be having a good time. They thought it was really cool. I had a couple of students come up to me and say, so what do you do at the paper mill? Because here I am trying to explain the process, and thankfully the engineers helped me enough to teach me what the process was and in a general context to bring into the classroom. But it was the look on their face when I told them I'm actually in HR, and they're like, oh, okay, you're in this AP Chem class and you're actually teaching us how to make our own paper. They looked at me like, are you sure you're qualified for this? And I looked at them like, I'm certainly not qualified for this. But it really just the smiles and how interested the students were in not just the activity that we brought in the classroom, but how we actually make the paper back at the mill.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, it sounds like a good little break from sitting at your desk. And then they also got to learn, like, oh, like the paper I write on for 8 hours a day at school, like, this is low-key how they make it. So,
yeah.
Very cool, very impressive. So, yeah, do you have any other takeaways, or that sums up about the event?
I don't think so. I mean, it was nice to have a hands-on student engagement activity. Normally with the challenge program, we're doing assemblies. It's a little less one-on-one. It's a whole, like a multimedia room full of students, and you're just doing a PowerPoint presentation where they don't really get to ask you questions one-on-one. Whereas here, I was able to help them through any questions that they had, even about workforce activities or anything like that, or job opportunities in the future as well.
Okay, yeah, no, you summed that up perfectly. We're trying to, I don't want to say get rid of more of the boring stuff, quote unquote, like the sitting and the lecturing and all that. So we're trying to incorporate these new fun activities, and that was the first one for us. So that was super fun to execute on our side, and we really appreciate all the time, effort, and energy, because it sounds like a lot over there to do and execute that activity. So thank you, and it's great to hear that it wasn't just the boring, simple, Q&A or whatever. Like, they were involved, they were asking questions, so it sounded like it was a great time, mutually beneficial for all. So thank you. And then we're going to move into our second segment, and that is just asking. Where we literally ask a random question. It can be dealing with our main topic, but today we're going to steer away and have more of a fun little question. So, I'm going to ask you, since it's getting warm out, we're in the heart of spring, the weekends are getting nicer, the days are warmer, do you have any fun summer plans on the horizon?
I will be heading to Europe towards the end of this year. I've only flown once before.
Okay,
so,
oh boy.
And this is going to be a really long flight.
Yes, that'll be awesome.
And it's going to be a week long, plus like the time change going there. It's
true, yeah. You always forget about that.
I'm going to have to adjust. So it'll be my first kind of vacation like that. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Okay, fun. And then, like, are you going all different parts around Europe, or are you going to like one centralized area and staying there for the week?
We are going to Athens.
Okay, very cool.
So we're going to just be traveling. We have a couple of plans for like some day trips and things like that, but we'll mostly be central within that location. So I'm very excited.
That sounds good, because sometimes I feel like people say, I'm going to go to Europe, and they either like stay in one spot and enjoy it, or sometimes they like run themselves dry and they're like, I'm going here this day and here the next day, and they like don't even get to enjoy where they're at. So I'm team find a good spot, kind of park there and enjoy the whole place, what the
Yes.
whole thing has to offer. So
Oh,
yeah.
there's more than enough to do just in
Oh,
that
yes.
week, just in that one area. So, and plus I have my whole life. I'll travel more maybe.
True, yes. Why?
We'll see how the
stop
flight
now?
goes. Maybe then I'll travel more.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a little test, a little
Yeah.
sample per
Yeah.
se. And then, not to be nosy, because we talked about it a little bit before, but may I ask why you're going on this week-long vacation?
So I am going on this vacation because it is going to be my 1-year wedding anniversary.
Yes,
Thank you.
congratulations, congratulations.
Thank you. So the only other time I've flown before was actually for my honeymoon, and we went to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic, and that was very nice, but there was no time change. It wasn't near as long of a flight, so this will be a little bit different. We wanted to do this as our honeymoon, but honestly with the wedding it was really expensive. It was too expensive to do both together.
Yeah, all together, yeah.
So we were like, well, we'll go for a 1 year, and it'll be nice because we'll actually get in on, we'll arrive the morning of our 1-year anniversary.
Oh, how perfect. How cute is
Yeah,
that?
so hopefully we don't blow all of our money on dinner that night or something, making it real special.
Hey, you could, I guess. I mean, as long as you have enough to get back. I mean, unless you want to permanently stay there.
That's
But
true.
I'm team have fun, go crazy. It's your day, it's your anniversary.
Thank you.
Live it up. Live it up. So yes, those are very fun, exciting plans from Lexie. So if you're in the summer and you're getting bored of life, just think Lexie's living it up. She is living it up over across the sea, enjoying her 1-year anniversary. So congratulations to that, and good luck, since you are,
you.
sounds like a hint nervous, and I don't blame you because you're traveling, time change, all that stuff. So, but I can feel it's going to be a good time. It's
It
going to be a good
definitely
time.
is. I'll be back on another podcast, maybe tell you how it goes.
Yes, she can come back for the update version. I like that. I
Yeah.
like the thinking. That was good. And then we're going to move into our third segment, and this is the challenge question. And this question is a little more oriented to our podcast, which this one, of course, we have our HR professional here. So it's all going to be about dealing with HR and interviewing. So this question is not necessarily about interviewing, but it's kind of get us into the segment of the main topic. And the question is, what is one challenge students aren't expecting after high school or tech school or whatever they graduate? Just something they're not necessarily expecting, since you do work with high schoolers in our program, and then of course you hire people right out of the gate once they graduate too.
I would say for me, the one thing I was not expecting was the freedom.
Yes.
So I'm not sure it's really a challenge, but I definitely was not expecting like high school. It was very regimented. Like you were there at this time, you got to leave at this time, and you know, every 42 minutes the bell would ring and you had to go to the next place, and it, you know, you had all of your ducks in a row, and you had to be there, and they were doing roll call. And now that I'm out into, I guess what I call like the real world, or at least the working world, now I mean, I have a schedule and I have to get all my responsibilities done, but there are just some things I wasn't expecting growing up like that. You have school is regimented, even you're living with your parents, and you have all of their rules and their curfews to comply with, and then you kind of just get thrown out into the real world. And now I get to do really fun things like this, like being here today, to like even the paper mills, like an hour or so away from your facility here in Johnstown, and to have an employer who lets me go and work with the kids, or even the workforce activity out at Tuna, with that taking 4 periods. I was gone for half the day. I know we're out in the schools because we want to give back to the community and things like that, but I just wasn't expecting how much trust and everything that would be given to you as an adult. And that's one thing that kind of makes me smile every time I do pull into the parking lot at work, is that I'm thankful to work there.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, great answer. And we had some high school interns, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, which college, like, what's, after high school, like, and I always say, oh, it's a grand old time if you obviously make it a grand old time.
Yes.
And then I always harp on like time management. Like, you don't have to be the best student, you don't have to be the smartest, the whateverest, but if you know how to manage your time, you show up to class, you do this, you get your homework done, or whatever, you show up to the job, you arrive on time, like, you're golden. As long as you're sticking to the goals and meeting them, then you're set. So I always say, you can still have time to hang out with friends, party. I don't promote partying, but you can do it if you want to.
Yeah.
All the fun stuff, but it just comes down to time management. And I think you've already mentioned how, you have your periods, and it's 42 minutes and this and that. And so I always say time management is like the craziest wide open thing when you graduate, whether it's school, college, or wherever it may be. So good answer on that. The world is different, but it's different in a fun way, especially with your job that you get to do lots of different sectors and things like that.
It's definitely different in a fun way. Like time management, you're 100% correct. That is super important. It's, I guess that would be the challenge is like once you're done with high school, college, technical school, any of that, you're kind of just thrown out into the world and it's on you to make or break it like from there. I'm fortunate for school and having my parents and everything who kept me regimented because now I keep myself regimented, but it really is just the world's yours. Go do what you want to do with it now.
Yeah, very accurate, very accurate. Okay, and then we're going to move into our fourth segment, and this is the meat and potatoes of the podcast, and it's going to deal everything with interviewing, everything under the sun. So I guess to get the ball rolling about interviewing, since you conduct most of the Paper Mills interviews, how do you prepare for an interview? Because everybody's always, oh yeah, you got to dress nice, and you got to research the company, this and that. But we never get to hear from the interviewer's perspective. Like, how are you preparing for an interview or a whole batch of interviews, you could say?
Normally for an interview, I'll review the resume. So normally we'll do that whenever the applicant applies to the job. We'll review, see if they're a good fit for the role. If we do bring them in for the interview, I'll probably review their resume one more time, kind of get refreshed before they come in. We'll also, like, I'll print out all the applications and all the resumes or cover letters that are sent and give those to our supervisors who join me in on the interviews. And from there, I send out the meeting invite. I block off the room in our conference room to host the interview. We work closely with our safety team so that each applicant can actually go on a tour of the facility.
Oh, okay, very cool.
Because it's a really large facility.
Yes.
So trying to
get
an idea in an interview of what you're going to be doing is a little bit difficult without seeing it. At least for me, I know I'm really hands-on, so I know seeing it and being in there and just kind of feeling the paper, hearing and feeling the paper being made, that goes a long way. But other than that, I don't prepare too much. I like to, in my personal opinion, I try to go for like a real relatable approach. So I don't like everything to be too regimented. I want whoever we're interviewing to feel comfortable, not feel like we do more of like a casual interview. Even at the paper mill, sometimes it can get a little messy there. We're fortunate we don't have any food scraps or anything like that, but we do have a lot of paper scraps everywhere. So you do have to, it's a delicate balance between dressing up for the interview and also not ruining your best clothes.
Yeah, that is very true for more of a blue-collar type. And what would you, since you already kind of mentioned it, we'll touch upon it later, but what would you recommend somebody who's going into more a blue collar, not so much we're going to go sit at a desk every day, like for an interview? Like you said, you kind of have to tiptoe a line of, oh, let's dress to the 10 yards, but also you don't want to mess up your best suit or dress.
Yes. Yeah, I would recommend wearing whatever you're most comfortable in that would be work appropriate. Normally whenever you're comfortable in what you're wearing, it kind of shines through and you'll feel it in the interview, and the people interviewing you will feel it too. And really you just want to be the best you that you can be. You want to be the most confident that you can there. You want to be honest. If we feel that genuineness, that comes through more than you coming in a suit and tie.
Okay, yeah, great answer. And then, I don't know if it's really going to be too different, but obviously you went through COVID, so I'm assuming you had to kind of do a little bit of the digital world. But is there any difference to preparation if you're going to do an interview over the phone, Zoom, or in person? I'm assuming the in-person one is obviously more preparing, but anything crazy different from the different modes of interviewing?
Not really different. I think if it's a phone or a Zoom, which we don't do a lot of, just because it really helps, at least in our industry, with the tour and seeing the facility. That helps a lot for any of our applicants. But also, getting to meet the person face to face, sometimes you can get a little bit better judge of character. So for the most part, we don't do a lot of phone or Zoom interviews, but if we did, it would really be, I think it'd probably be even more casual. Phone stuff, you'd only do like a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Really just the touch points of I could see that more being of just getting their resume up to date if it comes through like really verifying employment, going a little bit in detail about each job that they had and what exactly they did at each role.
Okay, good answer. And then, since you are the head honcho of the whole process, what are some things you're looking for in an interview or maybe even in a resume? Just some things that you could say every person you've hired, or just things that stand out to you right away that you see when candidates come in.
I would say for the resume, I would say some of the most important things are having requirements for that job. So for our production positions, they are required to have forklift experience. So that's something that we'd be looking for. We start kind of with the bare bones of what's required in that role and see if the applicant has that skill. And then from there, I would say the next thing we're looking for is longevity. I know for high school students, that's kind of hard to show, but even putting like clubs that you belong to, sports that you belong to for a decent length of time, that would help out a lot as well. Because it's hard to, if you're in only here 3 months and there 6 months, it's a little bit more difficult to make sure that you've gained the skills from that role. So longevity is definitely the one that we would second look for in the resume. I'd also say like cover letter or something where, you're demonstrating eagerness or willing to learn if you maybe don't have the experience part of it. And during the interview, just looking for honesty.
Okay, yes.
That I think gets you really far. We always say at work, attitude over aptitude. You can train skills, but you can't always train character. So just come in, be honest, be your authentic self, and that's going to go way farther than coming in and being worried about making sure you impress us.
Okay, yes. Great answer. I know in other podcasts we've talked about just being open, honest. And then I know when I was in the land of like interviewing, I forget what, but I was really like harping on myself. And they're like, no, we love the honesty. So when in doubt, honest it out.
Yes.
Just be yourself, be genuine. And the rest will do the talking. Like,
yes,
your
exactly.
genuine personality will seal the deal too.
Yes.
So yes. And then I personally have a juicy question. Do first impressions matter right out of the gate when they come into the interview?
I think people would like to say that they do. I don't feel like they do, unless it would be that, you're late and you didn't call or something like that. But if you come and you're nervous, all that shows me is that you're humble about your skills, and I think it makes it a little bit more relatable of an interview, because honestly, I'm probably a little nervous too. So we both are kind of interviewing each other at the same time. I think that builds a level of comfortability. I wouldn't worry about if you mess something up or, your handshake's not the best at first. The whole interview is a time for you to prove and redeem yourself. So you have 30 whole minutes. I wouldn't worry about your very first impression.
Okay, sounds good. So you're very pro. You can recover even after a bad start.
I believe the best in people. So I think even a rough start, sometimes I have a rough start. Many days I have a rough start, even in my personal life.
Yeah,
so
in general. Yep.
I'm human. They're human too. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna say things that we shouldn't say. We're gonna stumble on our words sometimes. But really, just being yourself, whether that is being a little bit nervous. I think that's a little bit better than pretending to be somebody you're not.
Yeah, or no care in the world either.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds cool. And then I guess we could talk about like the follow-up etiquette, because we've talked about how you prep, what you kind of have to do, but then a lot of people, and I probably would say including myself, especially if you're on the younger side, like what do you do after an interview or even towards the end of an interview per se?
Towards the end of an interview, I would definitely ask questions. That's one thing. When we say, oh, do you have any questions? Come up with something, even on the ride over. Just ask any question that you can think of, just something to show that you're interested and engaged at the interview. I would make sure to shake everyone's hand on your way out and thank them for their time. After the interview, I would, if if you really want that job and you're very interested in the opportunity, sending a thank you email or a thank you note, that goes a long way. It might sound cheesy right now, like, oh, send them a thank you note, but it really does go a long way for their time. They'll know how much you really care about that job, and that might push you ahead in the list of applicants. And even like calling and following up, I would give it like a week. You don't want to call too much too fast.
Yeah. Yep.
That could probably swing the dial the other way.
Mm-hmm.
But just showing something to show that you're engaged and interested in that opportunity.
Okay, sounds good. And then, what are some good questions that you've either heard or that you would recommend to say at the end of an interview? Even if you have nothing, absolutely zilch going in the mind, but you know you have to come up with something. What are some questions that you recommend to either give, or some good questions that you've heard?
From the applicants?
Yeah, it can be from you or them.
Oh.
Maybe per se from like their perspective.
Well, I guess that this would be kind of twofold. I know some good questions that we ask we always ask at the end about what their hobbies are, kind of to make it a little bit more lighthearted, but also with a lot of our machines and stuff, if you're somebody who maybe works on cars on the weekends, even though that's not something you might have job experience with, that will help you a lot in here to know that you're mechanically inclined. That's just an example, but really just to get a better idea of who that person truly is. And I would say some of the best questions that we've got in return to that's why this is twofold, is in the 2 years I've been interviewing people, only one person has ever asked us what our hobbies are in return from us asking them, and that made it really fun. I mean, we'd never been asked that before, and we went down the line of supervisors and all talking about what we like to do, and we even kind of learn more about each other that way. Like, we sit in this interview room all the time, but do I always know what they did last weekend? No, not always. So that was something that was pretty cool as well. But more of like job related stuff, asking anything about the facility, like asking how much paper we make a day or how many square footage it is, something like that would be good. Or anything related to specific role of like, what would the day-to-day activities look like? That's a really great question to ask, and that could cross different industries, not just if you're interviewing at the paper.
Yep. Okay, good answers. And then we're going to go skip from the end to the beginning again of an interview. If somebody really has no idea where to start, of course, you're the one conducting it, so you kind of set the pace and the tone. But if you can kind of tell, like, somebody is nervous or struggling, are you able to give kind of any tips on how to calm the nerves and just let the interview flow as it flows, like from a interview point? Like, because you conduct them all the time, so of course you're probably still nervous too, but can you give any tips on how to maybe settle down and just kind of figure out how to, conduct yourself and roll through the interview?
I would say maybe practicing ahead of time. I know you're not going to know exactly what they're going to ask you, but just looking up some like interview tips and tricks, that always helps. In addition to that, though, I don't have a whole lot of advice because I'm normally a nervous person. I want to make a good impression even when I have someone else who's interviewing. But the interviewer should make the interviewee feel comfortable. So if they don't, that might be a sign that maybe you don't want to work there. But also, if you're just a nervous person like I am, I think that I like to chalk it up and say it's part of the charm, though. It makes me real. It makes me relatable. People can look at me and they know that I don't think I'm the very best of the best. I'm just human. I make mistakes, and that I really am just me. I'm me now. I'll be me later, and I'm gonna be me while I'm here at work. I would just roll with it. Let it be part. Try to calm it down a little bit, but don't stress over it. Just keep pushing through it and just be authentically yourself.
Okay. And I think I might know this answer already because I think we might have touched upon it or literally just got done talking about it. But what is the most important thing you would either say to somebody or the most important thing to remember when it comes to interviewing? More so coming from a candidate. Like, what's the most important thing, the holy grail that you can take away when you're doing an interview?
I would say attitude over aptitude, and that could go both ways. For people interviewing, again, you can teach skills. It's a lot harder to teach any characteristic traits. It's a lot harder to do that. And same for the interviewee. Just come in, even if you might not be the most qualified, even if you stumble on your words on one of the questions, just show an eagerness, a care, and a general willingness to learn the job. That'll get you further than just coming in, throwing your resume on the table with a list of qualifications.
Okay, right on. And then I guess just to kind of wrap it up so we have kind of like a nice little summary, let's pretend that you're going for a job. You just saw it on Indeed or wherever job web platform that you're looking on. Can you kind of give a little breakdown of how you would do from point A to like the final point of doing the interview, like from the person interviewing? And you can do it from your point of view too.
From the person interviewing, what I would do is if you find the job, I would kind of go through with like a fine-tooth comb on what the requirements are within that job. I think too often we might just, normally at least I've seen in the past, you need a job, so you're applying a whole bunch of places. Well, maybe you're not fine-tuning your resume to what they're looking for. I certainly wouldn't lie or put anything far-fetched on there because, again, attitude over aptitude when you get the interview. But you could, some of your wording and stuff could match up a little bit better with that job so that you are more qualified looking from the business side. So that's something I would do, is kind of fine-tune your resume. I'm a big fan of cover letters as well. I know they're tedious, painstaking, got to make them for every single job that you apply to. But I would say the ones that you really want are worth doing the cover letter for as well. Keeping your ringer on, have a voicemail set up.
Yes,
so that
and appropriate too.
Yes, an appropriate voicemail set up so that when they call for an interview, they can get in touch with you, or they can leave a voicemail and they're for certain that that's your phone number. From there, I would make sure you get back to them right away, or, try to find a quiet place where you're able to talk to them if they want to do a phone interview right there. Make sure you have a clear calendar for whenever you're interviewing. Try to do it as soon as possible, not like, oh, I'll come in right now, but maybe, next couple of days I'll be available to come in, whatever fits your schedule best. But you don't want to do like, oh yeah, next month I have one day available.
Yeah, it sounds rough.
So from there, then I would, again, put your best foot forward, maybe practice some questions, look up some interview tips and tricks once you have that scheduled. I would wear something that fits the industry and the role that you're applying to, depending on what that would be. And I would show up early to the interview as well. I'd shake the hand of whoever comes out to greet you, as well as anyone who's in the room interviewing you at that time. I'd bring copies of your resume on paper. This isn't me just pushing paper from the paper mill, but I would bring some copies so that in case, because sometimes I forget. I might forget to print them or something. That makes it a little bit easier there. And then I'd just be yourself during the interview. After the interview's concluded, I'd shake everyone's hand again, thank them for their time, and be on my way. And then again, sending a thank you note, email, something like that. And then following up if you don't hear anything. I'd give it like a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on what kind of position it is. Give them a little bit of time, but and then most of all, just stay optimistic. Don't doubt yourself. Don't give up. One job's not the end of the world. If you don't get that role, something else better. I know even just in the role that I'm in today, and this really isn't advice, but this is just me personally. I know I applied to some other roles before I got in this one that I'm in here today. And at the time when I didn't get those jobs, it felt like, oh man, am I not good? Do I not have the right skills? And I think it really just takes a company who sees you for how you are. Your personal values have to align with the company's values as well. And when those align, it's just like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, it's golden. Yeah,
no pun intended on the paper machines, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I always think like, why, change yourself, sell yourself, do this, because if you do get that job, then you do have to keep up that fake persona per se, and that sounds tiring personally, because sometimes jobs can be tiring in general. So why try to have to add another complicated layer of you trying to, pretend that you did this or pretend that you are this person. So I love the real, raw honesty when it comes to picking for a job that fits you, and then also they fit, you too as well. And then you mentioned it real quick towards the end that you follow up like a week or two later, and then you said show up early for the interview. Now, what would you say is like the sweet spot for showing up early? Because sometimes when I think about showing up early, I'm like thinking of an hour. Now, personally,
Yeah.
it probably would be 15, but what's a good time you always think to show up early for an interview?
I would say 15.
Okay.
I would, just from both standpoints. One, being someone who has interviewed before, I know I'll be a little bit nervous during the interview, especially when you really care about the job that you're interviewing for. So you don't want to come too early and get yourself all worked up while you're just
Yeah,
sitting
true.
there waiting. I think 15 minutes early is a sweet spot for you as the interviewer, but then also the interview company, they don't want to, you don't want to show up too early to where now like they feel a little bit guilty that you're sitting out there. Maybe they're running from another meeting or something else going on. Or, even with all the meetings, like our safety team, our supervisors, and HR are all involved in our interviews. So even if safety is able to do something a little bit early, HR and the supervisors might not be able to at that moment. So it is good to try to abide by the time. I'd say a little bit early. 15 minutes is probably a good spot.
Okay, perfect. And then I know personally I've heard like when you're waiting there to like not be on your phone or doing anything crazy. Do you have any like do's and don'ts for just like the like weird awkward like waiting period before they call you back or before you walk right in? Like any do's and don'ts to kind of, because you did say first impressions matter, so anything that could be a red flag that they're doing or something that they may not be doing also.
Yeah, our interview process is a little strange because right now they do check in at our security office. So it's not like somewhere where we'd really be watching them per se. We really wouldn't know until we got there and just kind of stumbled upon them whenever we went to pick them up. But I will say some of the best interviews that we have had once we got them back down to the HR office with the supervisors were the same people who were out in the security shack, not on their cell phone, and actually engaging with security, like asking questions about the company before the interview even started, asking the security guard what the day looks like, and what everyone does there, and or they'll maybe see a truck going by and they'll ask about what's on that. So just those people who start their interview process that way, even when it hasn't officially started
before
yet.
it starts.
Yeah, before it really starts. It's not that we'll check up on if were you talking to the security guard. We won't ask, but it just how you put your best foot forward, like we were saying earlier. That kind of trickles down into how the rest of your interview goes. If you show up excited and eager, you'll behave that way while you're on your tour, while you're in your interview, even when you leave.
Okay, perfect. And so honestly, I think that's going to conclude the episode about interviewing. Unless you have any final grand points or anything you didn't get to mention, feel free to fire away. But other than that, I think that was a good rundown of the land of interviewing.
I would say the last thing I have to say, and I know I said this whole time, is just be yourself. Completely be yourself. Don't pretend to be anyone else. The right company will value you for who you really are. And I'm fortunate enough that exact situation happened to me. So speaking from true experience, somebody who was in high school not as long ago as it may seem, but worried about how big the world was and all the different opportunities and not quite sure where I was going to go. The right spot will find you if you are yourself.
Okay, perfect last takeaway. And then first off, I just want to say, not that you're interviewing me per se, but thank you for taking the time to come here and to come to our headquarters in Johnstown and for doing this lovely podcast. So thank you from myself and the whole TCP team. We appreciate you coming down. And then do you have anything on the horizon as the paper mill and as a whole? Do you have anything new coming up? Do you have any specific jobs you want to plug? Any social medias? Anything that you got going on at the paper mill?
I would say for anybody listening right now, unfortunately you do have to be 18 years or older to work at the paper mill. But if maybe you are graduating soon, you're senior, and I know this end of school year should be like right around the
Oh,
corner
yeah, a couple
from
weeks.
now.
Yep.
So if you're not quite sure what you want to do after school, we have opportunities for all different types of positions. So our production positions, they just need a high school diploma, or if you have vocational training, maybe at a local CTC, we do have pipe fitters, millwrights, electricians, some of those trade skills available as well. Or even if you're planning to go on to college, we have different engineering positions, IT, HR, and we even do summer internships for
Okay,
those.
perfect. I was just going to
as
ask.
well.
I was like, do you guys do internships? So.
Yeah, we even do internships for those. So we actually have an HR intern this summer.
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, I would just keep us in mind for any of your future activities, no matter where life takes you. I would keep the paper mill in the back of your mind.
Okay, perfect. Yes. And then where is the paper mill exactly located, just for coordinates and people are game planning and strategizing?
So it is located in Tyrone, Pennsylvania. It is right on the main Pennsylvania Avenue, and honestly, if you pull it up in your Google Maps or something, you can't miss it. Even if you're driving by, it is huge. It's a lot of city street blocks all put together there. Honestly, when I first started there, I made a little joke that it feels like its own town when you go in. Because there's so many different, like HR has its own building, and then there's accounting has its own building, and everything's in its own. It's kind of like our houses. We have like all our own houses. So
county house.
yeah.
Yep.
So if you go to look it up online, or you go to drive past or anything, you can't miss it. I promise that. And I'm not even very good with directions, and I made it there for my interview. So
Okay, perfect. I did too. I got lost, kind of. I forget where I was supposed to go to the head security office, and I'm like driving, because I knew it deep down. I was like, oh my god, I'm like in the middle of the field right now. Like, I should be a forklift, not in my car right now. But some lovely guy, he was like, are you lost? I was like, yes, I am, sir. Yes, I am.
Yes.
He was like, oh, well, you're here. You just need to follow the road and get back to the main construction or security entrance. So you really can't miss it. Even if you think you're missing it, you're there. You're just not maybe in the right spot. But they have lovely people to help you out.
that is the other thing. Everyone at the paper mill is just such a genuine, kind soul. I think that might be because we prioritize like the attitude over aptitude and everything. They are all fantastic at their job as well. I'm not saying anything about that, but if you get lost and you see someone out on the street or the parking lot, they will help you. They genuinely care about other people, even if they've never seen you before. So you will definitely be able to get help.
Okay, perfect. And then since you plugged all these different positions, where can they apply to? Like directly on your website, through a job platform? Where's the best option to do that?
So we do have a couple places that they could apply. One of them would be Indeed. That's probably the easiest one, because they can just do the quick apply. So that's sometimes easier if you already have your resume loaded in. You can do it on Indeed. We do also have it on our company careers page as well. That will take you a link right over to submitting your resume. But those are probably your top two best places to look for the job. Indeed's easy with the quick apply, but it's also nice at the company website because while you're looking for the careers page, you'll kind of get a feel for the operation.
The whole place. Yep.
Yeah. So then you might even start forming questions while you're applying for your interview. Be like, oh, that's pretty cool. I wonder how they do that, or something like that might come up.
Okay. Sounds good. And then this is just a personal nosy question. I know when I was applying and I picked Indeed, whether it's a good platform or not, I just liked how easy and user accessible it was. And then you said quick apply. Are you pro quick apply, or should applicants just take the time to manually fill it out?
I'm certainly pro quick apply.
Okay.
I don't know if this is coming from HR experience or just all the times that I've applied to jobs before in the past for my working career. I am certainly a fan of quick apply. Keep your resume up to date, have it ready to go. I don't like when the positions have all this tedious work. Like if you already have everything on your resume and then they're asking you to put it in over here.
Yeah, round two. Yes, literally.
I am not a fan of that at all. I think resume is a good starting point, but honestly, most of the resumes that come through, we opt to interview because I can't tell who you are from a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So 9 times out of 10, we are going to bring you in to at least talk to you face to face because some people who may have had a resume that you didn't think was going to do super well comes in, blows you out of the water with how eager and how much concern they have for the role, whereas somebody who might have just a million page resume about things that they're wonderful at might come in and not really care about the job, not show any excitement.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of quick apply, keeping your resume up to date, just send it right over. Don't fill it out twice, don't have to do it on two different places, and let you and who you are as a person speak for itself whenever you get the interview.
Okay, love that. And I'd love to hear a quick apply, because I know when I was applying, I always got like paranoid. I'm like, well, it's quick on my end, but I don't want them to think like I'm doing quick apply because like I'm flying through a whole bunch of them or this and that. So it's good to hear that an HR professional is pro quick apply.
I am certainly pro quick apply.
Not that I'll need it anytime soon, hopefully. But good to know for future references and for all of you lovely people watching too. And then just last one real quick, is the HR paper mill on any digital platforms, social media? What kind of places are you at so they could kind of check you out more if they wanted to?
We do have a Facebook, and we also have a LinkedIn profile as well. And we're very active on both of those platforms, so that's a really good place to scope out and see what's going on. Even later this week, we'll be having a Memorial Day picnic for all of our employees while they're working. All of our leadership team will come out and they'll grill out burgers and stuff right there on the mill property. We'll play music, and it'll be really fun and stuff. But last year we had photos up on our Facebook of that, so you'll just see all kinds of different things. We put something out for Mother's Day recently, so there's just a whole bunch of different little throw out shout outs out there. But then there will also be things like all of our employee events that will be on there as well.
Okay, sounds good. And then if a person had a question about the mill, would they be able to just like directly message you on Facebook too? Would that work? Or is there a different, better way to contact just questions in general, or maybe like an interview question or something to that effect?
So they could reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. Just at Lexie Steiner. They could send me a message through there. That's actually how we found our HR intern for this summer.
Okay, very cool.
Was just reached out with a couple of questions for a project that he was working on, and then he did a wonderful job of, even though he was asking me questions, I was very impressed with just like how everything flowed and just how humble it was, and that was really, and then he kept me involved like throughout while he was presenting his project to let us know how we did, even though I didn't do any work. It was all him.
That's cool.
Carried all the weight. But I would say reaching out to me directly, because you never know what could happen if you are looking for an internship or something. Maybe that's how it ends up starting.
Yeah, working out.
But other than that, the Facebook's managed by by our customer service team at the mill.
Okay.
So I'm sure they would certainly help, and they'd certainly get the question where it needs to go. Just probably wouldn't be the most direct. But you can also call into our security office and get forwarded over to my line, or we can put maybe in the information of this podcast or something, we could put my email in.
Yeah, we can put all your contact stuff in. Yep.
Oh, that's perfect. And that will have my phone number for my direct line, and I will also have my email on there.
Okay, awesome. All right, sounds good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was our podcast with the Lexie Steiner from American Paper Eagle Mills as the HR specialist, everything in the land of HR. So once again, I just want to appreciate you for your time, your advice, and then of course all your school sponsorships too, because you don't just sponsor one school. The Mills sponsors a whole plethora of schools. So we appreciate it. We appreciate your time being here again. And other than that, I'm going to be signing off. So signing off from myself and signing off from Lexie. And we appreciate you, and have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Challenge podcast. If you want to learn more about us, check out our website at tcpinc.org or check out all of our social medias. Thanks, and have a good one.